Let's talk about what is a very worrying increase in liquidations for businesses that are being forced into liquidation. Stats SA's data showing business closures going up by almost 10% year on year. But we need to break that down into quarters. We can't just say year on year. We need to be more specific. Well, financing, insurance and business servicing and real estate were the hardest hit. Could get worse as well. Let's find out how much worse with rising inflation and interest rates. Always good to have F&B property sector strategist John Loos making time for us this morning. John, good morning. Good to have you with us. Let's just talk a moment, if we can. You and I spoke during COVID as we got to the end of COVID as well, and you were predicting something like this, how bad liquidations can be. Is this as bad as you thought it would be? Good morning.
Well, interestingly enough, there was a surge in liquidations just after the hard lockdown. So early last year, it sort of peaked. That was quite a big surge, and that created quite a high base. So if you looked at the first 6 months of this year, it's actually down by 6.4% year on year, the whole 6 months compared to the 6 months of last year. But when you look at it month by month by month, the year on year rate, as you mentioned, is almost 10%, 9.83% for June, after previous months of year-on-year declines. So it just looks in the June figures as though we're starting to turn upwards again. What would the latest driver of that be? I think it's about rising inflation, exerting pressure on this economy, and of course the rising interest rates that go with it. Interest rates are a key. You know, a lot of businesses have debt, and so rising interest rates are a key issue when it comes to the business financial health.
Yeah, I think what COVID-19 did for small to medium, possibly even high-income businesses was just show how little capital they have in the bank for when things get really tough, and I think many of them are feeling that now as well. John, I see there's a comment made as well on Business Tech where you spoke about the hotel industry and their income comparing May, I think it's May of this year to May of last year as well. Was this liquidation has a knock-on effect for that sector as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, I mean, so hotels and a big portion of retail businesses, you know, they lost a lot of their cash flow, well, and some of them entirely when they locked down in the hard lockdowns of 2020. So that was a torrid year for them, and hotels were one of them. So the hotel sector for one, and I think a lot of other non-essential parts of retail, the sort of the luxury and the eating out and whatever at the restaurant sector, have been battling their way back and are not fully recovered. So if we look at hotel income for one, for which we have data obviously, still 19% down, almost 20% down on the corresponding, in May this year, for the corresponding month of 2019. So improving, yes, but not back to, not in real terms, if you adjust for inflation, that's even worse. Well, it's still far from 2019 levels, and that's been the issue for many of them, is they're not fully recovered in terms of their revenue levels. Plus, of course, they took a financial hit during the lockdowns, from which they're still trying to revive their balance sheets.
And apart from trying to revive and restart those balance sheets, just as we all thought, John, we were starting to get somewhere again. You mentioned inflation. Then, of course, we have to talk about what some will call these various headwinds. I think headwinds is the term used in the industry as well. So rising fuel prices, a declining economy, household expenditure is down, household income is down as well. So a sector like the hotels and the tourism sector are going to be hit badly as well because disposable income just isn't there. So you take away COVID-19 and it's still not a good sector to be in right now. Could we see more liquidations?
Yes, so I think if one looks at the retail, wholesale, trade, catering and accommodation sector, that's a mouthful. A big sector includes hotels. Similar, unfortunately, I think, although the source of pressure now is different to the lockdowns, it's not a forced loss of income, it's now interest rates and inflation rising. But I think that the sectors that are disadvantaged, relatively speaking, are similar sectors, unfortunately. Because what will the consumer do? Well, a lot of traveling expenditure they can't avoid. So petrol prices have skyrocketed, so they cut back on or they have to reprioritize their expenditures away from luxuries / non-essentials, all the luxury clothing, maybe the eating out, the entertainment, and the tourism, the travel. That's where they have to reprioritize and probably move away from more towards essentials. So it's a similar that the consumer does that, and the source of pressure, or the sectors that are at a disadvantage again are the non-essentials, the luxuries, and also the postponables. You might need clothes, but you don't need them now, so you can postpone your spending. And it's a similar. I don't think the financial knock will be as bad as those hard lockdowns. But nevertheless, it's a financial knock for similar looking sectors, as far as I can see, in this retail, trade and catering sector.
There's a new word I've learned this morning as well, postponables. I think that's a nice way of explaining it. John, before I say goodbye to you, I see the sun beginning to peek through your office, wherever you're talking to us from. A ray of light. Do you have one financially in this sector as far as liquidations? Is there something down the road we can smile about today?
Look, I think it's a tough one. Interest rate hikes and inflation surges come and go. I think that one should not expect, though, that these petrol price increases will last that long. Oil prices globally do typically come off quite quickly when it comes to, because they cause the global economy to cool, and then that causes oil demand to slow. And then it's a sort of a self-correction. So, there is reports of a possible one more petrol price hike, but I think these are short-term issues. The longer-term issues, obviously, are the structural reforms needed for the economy to get it going on a sustained basis. But these petrol price spikes, at least, normally aren't long-lasting. So if one can survive it for the coming months, I think it starts to turn at some point fairly soon.
It's the surviving that's the hard part from day to day, isn't it? John Loos, I always appreciate your time. F&B property sector strategist John Loos joining us this morning. And